don't know about you. I'm all about obedience if you'll just tell me how it's going to work.
We're talking about like, how do we proceed when things are just not clear to us?
Mm-hmm.
How do we proceed? And so we talked about, of course, trusting the Lord,
Right?
which we do even when we have no idea how it's going to turn out. But how do we continue to just move forward in this?
Yeah, so just to skip to the chase a little bit, we do know how it turns out. Jesus is victorious. He defeated death. He's coming back to take us home. We do know the end of the story, right? And so that's what the perspective that we've got to get, the perspective we've got to pursue is that. Because I don't know about you. I'm all about obedience if you'll just tell me how it's going to work.
Right.
I'll homeschool my kids. Sure, we will go on this trip. Yeah, I'll accept this opportunity. Yes, we will do. Fill in the blank. How many of us love the Red Sea story or the Daniel and the lion story or the interpret the thing story solely because we know the outcome? And we're all about being the hero, right? Because we're like, yeah, that'd be awesome, right? To do. And I'm like, what about in that moment when you don't know?
Yeah.
You don't know. And I think that for me, it's homework assignment number 2.
Okay.
How about we take some time to be introspective? And in an ideal world, I love the picture you painted earlier with your cup of tea. You and I are tea drinkers. I'm English breakfast. You're mint. I'm half and half. You're vanilla.
Sometimes I do English breakfast.
Yeah. How about a cup of tea? I like to light a candle and I'm with God's word and I love to journal. What if we just dared to journal about those things that we know God is asking us to do? Because I would posit, we know. I know. There are things that I know God is asking me to do. I got to deal with that, right? Mm-hmm. And I got to figure out, is this a willful thing? I just don't want to.
Right.
Is this I will if you tell me?
Right.
Because, and it's easy to say, oh, I don't have any of that going on. Okay, girlfriend. All right. What if you actually dared to ask God if he would reveal to you in your heart, in your time with him, those issues of obedience and trust that you are ignoring, that you are overlooking, that you are creatively, just putting in a box somewhere and just not, just putting off, procrastinating with.
Yeah.
Because God really wants us to trust and obey him. And he's not asking for us to do an Isaac, right?
Yeah.
Probably. It's incremental. And if you've been on this journey for a while and you're like, dagummit, the thing he's asking me to do now is so much more serious than the thing he did last week. I'm like, yeah, it is. Because God is never satisfied with us where we were last week or last year. Because his whole objective is that we're transformed, that we're changed. But it's all about that perspective. It's all about that resolve that Daniel shows us, right?
Right.
And then that trust, that obedience, that waiting on him. So how about some women examples? We need some women in here somewhere. Yeah. So let's throw some in. Let's talk about Ruth, when she is tending to her mother-in-law, who is probably suffering from some depression, right? Because her husband's died, her 2 sons have died. She's lonely. She's not thinking clearly, right? And Naomi ministers to her. But it's not because she knew that there was a Boaz. Right. It's not because she knew there was an Obed. She was trusting and obeying what she knew, right? Esther, Mordecai comes and says, you got to do something. Who knows that you were born and ascended to the throne for such a time as this? And she's like, I'm not feeling it. And he's like, look, God is going to save his people. Right. God is going to do something. And then she says, gather the Jews and fast and pray, and I will go in. But she didn't know. This is the same guy.
Yeah, she said, if I die, I die.
Exactly. Yeah. And there's all indications that she was prepared to do that. This was the king, who had sent out the last queen, Vashti, right? He had
Right.
exiled her. So, I mean, it wouldn't have been out of character if he had done the same thing to Esther,
If
right?
he had been in a bad mood that day and
Exactly.
not
And
held out his golden scepter.
yes, and I think she says it had been a long time since he had called her, like 30 days or 100 days. I mean,
Okay,
she
I don't
hadn't
remember
seen the
that
king for a long
for
time.
a
It's an
while.
interesting
Yeah.
little phrase, more homework
Yeah.
in there. So, and these people didn't know. How about
Right.
Mary? An angel comes to
Yep.
Mary, a young woman, and invites her to be a part of what he's going to do to save
Yeah.
mankind and humanity. And she has a really good question. Never been with a man. How's this going to happen? Right. And he answers her question. And then she says, may it be unto me according to your word.
Mhm.
She had no idea
Yeah.
what she was signing on to. No idea. But God was doing what? Inviting her to trust and obey. He was calling her higher. He was
Mhm.
inviting her to get perspective. And this
Yeah.
is what we need to unpack next time. So,
Okay.
perspective on who he is and his promises. That's what he's inviting us to do.
Homeschool Insights is sponsored by CTC Math. If you're looking for a great online math program, visit ctcmath.com and try it for free. For more great homeschool inspiration and resources, listen to the Schoolhouse Rocked podcast every Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday.